How would you like to make $100,000 to $300,000 your first year in your agency? This is something that I get asked quite a bit. A lot of people want to come into entrepreneurship, especially marketing and advertising, agency entrepreneurship, and they want to be able to make a high personal income. It is quite possible. It's very easy to do if you have expertise and you follow particular steps. If you don't have any expertise, you're coming at this straight up at level 0, well, you're going to need to become an expert. I do have a video on how to become a legitimate expert in 90 days. Check that out in the description. For those who are an expert, this video should be quite helpful. So let's The main barrier to being able to have a multiple six-figure income your first year in your agency is that you lack a system. You lack having something that's step by step. Ooh, baby. The new kids had it right. You've got to have a step-by-step plan to get where you want to go. The first step you've got to figure out is what financial success looks like. You have to reverse engineer your financial success. If you want $100,000, what's it take to get there? If you want $300,000, what's it take to get there? Hell, you could want $1 million or $2 million. There's no reason to limit yourself to $300,000 in your first year, but I wanted to give you something that was actually feasible, not something that's just wishful thinking or you're going to be 1 out of 1 million to achieve it, but something that is realistically possible. So let's figure out our numbers. I'm going to use $300,000. That's a good amount of money, pretty much anywhere in the world. So this is a good number to shoot for because we can actually do some fairly simple math. 12 clients times $25,000 equals $300,000. That's 5. Yeah, $300,000. I focus on little hinges swing big doors. Say it over and over and over again. You should only aim for about 10 to 12 clients in your first year. You don't want more than that. Matter of fact, you could probably stay at 10 to 12 clients for the first 4 or 5 years of your business, just client stacking and getting ones that pay higher and higher amounts and keeping your client roster really small so that you can provide great service. You can end up building a multi-million-dollar agency and never exceed 12 clients at any one time. Now back to the $300,000 mark. What we need is our average price minus our costs, and that's going to give us the amount of money we're going to net, the amount that we get to keep. Odds are, even if you're a freelancer, you're going to have some costs associated with it. They'll probably be marginal. You don't need an office space. You don't need much more than internet access. That's pretty much it. And so you don't have to have very high costs. So we'll say if you're at the freelancer stage, the very beginning phase, you don't have a team of any sort, that your costs are going to be marginal. So we'll just stay with $25,000. But if you do have costs associated with it, and if you're smart, you'll make plans for when you actually have costs associated with it, where your fixed and variable costs are 50%. So if you were charging $25,000 and you wanted to make $300,000 in personal income, well, you would have to get 24 clients, or you would have to charge $50,000 so that you would end up netting $25,000 to pay yourself. Make sense? Reverse engineering your financials, knowing your numbers, this is a critical first step. You have to have a target to aim for. Now that we know what our income per client is going to be, that lets us know, well, how many clients do we have to have? So I say aim for that 12. Aim for 10 to 12 clients. So if you're a freelancer, solopreneur, got really small costs, then you can charge about $25,000, get 12 clients in the course of a year to pay you that $25,000. You're going to make 300 grand. I do want to caution you. I keep saying 12 clients, and I shouldn't even have to say this part because most people go after way too many clients. They don't believe me when I say 10 to 12 clients is all you need. So they end up going after far more. But if you think, well, gee, what if I got one client to pay me $300,000? Well, then I don't need to do much client management whatsoever. Well, there is an issue with that. And that is all your money is wrapped up into that one client. So you need to have a minimum of 5 clients in the course of a year. So 5 clients that pay you enough money for you to make $300,000. That's $60,000 a piece. You would want at least 5. Because if one of them churns out, you've lost 20% of your revenue, just gone. But if you had 1 to 3 clients, you lose 1 client and you're financially in trouble if you started increasing your lifestyle. This is an important warning. You don't want to start increasing your lifestyle until you've exceeded 5 clients. And for me, on the safe side, it's 10. Like I want 10 clients. So if I lose 1, 10% of my revenue disappears. That's still a big decrease in my income, is losing 10%. So I don't want to start increasing my lifestyle until after I've achieved 10 clients, because then I'm at far less risk of causing financial problems for myself. Now, step 2 is reverse engineer your labor. So we know how many clients we need. We need 10 to 12 clients to achieve our financial target. So now, how much time goes into this? And this is another way of saying margins. How much effort goes into earning that money? And I did a video on how to make hundreds of thousands of dollars working 2 weeks a month. Go check it out. It's in the description below. The way you want to structure the work that you do for your clients is that you are able to earn that $300,000 in 2 weeks a month. 50% of your time goes to actual labor. If you're spending more than 50% of your time on labor, you're going to struggle with growing. You're going to have a hard time bringing on team members that you manage. You're going to have a hard time moving into higher levels so that you can take care of bigger clients. This is something that you are in control of. Most people don't think this. Most people don't think they're in control of the amount of time it takes to fulfill your promises for your clients, because your clients don't care how much time it takes. What they care about is the end result. So if you can achieve their end result, the thing that you've promised them, in a day, and they pay you $25,000, great, they're going to be happy with you. If it takes you a week to do that and you make $25,000, great, now you've got another 3 weeks to work on getting the next client, work on creating marketing, work on creating content, all those other things of running a business you have the time to do. If we're reverse engineering our labor and we're keeping to that 50% rule and we've got 52 weeks out of the year, I want you to take 4 weeks vacation time, so that gives us 48 weeks of actually running this business. If we do the 50% rule, then you've got 24 weeks to fulfill client work. And if you only have 12 clients, well, that's easy math. You've got 2 weeks per client. So that's 80 hours that you can give to each client. And so that could be 80 hours in a single month. It could be 80 hours over the course of an entire year. But you have 80 hours to spend on this client. I want to give you some real world examples. A couple of friends of mine, Patrick McKenzie goes by Patio11 on the internet, and Brennan Dunn, who does Double Your Freelancing, they were doing about $20,000 to $25,000 per week for their consulting gigs. So how many weeks would they need to work to make $300,000? And remember, it was just them. So freelancer doing a single week's worth of work, 5 days max, how many would they have to do to make $300,000? Well, 12, right? one per month. They would only need one client per month, and they'd be able to complete it in a single week. There's another agency called AJ and Smart that does design sprints, which take about a week. And so they charge, I'm guessing, somewhere between $25,000 and $40,000 per week to do a design sprint for their clients. And the client comes to them, to their offices. They don't even have to travel for this. So all their expenses are right there at their office. And they do $25,000 to $40,000. So how much would they have to do to achieve $300,000 in revenue? Well, 12, right? Or less, actually, if they're closer to 40,000. They could be doing far less, right? I wanted to give you those examples because this is something that you're in control of. You may not be thinking, I can charge $25,000 or even $40,000 for a single week of my time. I might not be able to do that. And the reality is it's possible. It's your choice. The way you deliver your results to your clients is within your power. If it is something that requires a longer time frame, then you go back to the fact that you only got 80 hours. So if you're doing, say, Facebook advertising, a certain amount of your time is going to go into the building of the campaign, the strategy, the creation of the content, and then you may have maintenance over the rest of that year. So you have to watch those hours, all the hours going into it, because if you don't, what happens is those hours start to stack up. Every time you add a new client and you're doing that additional maintenance work, the additional recurring labor for them, it starts to stack up. And you may find that you are now doing 40 hours a week of just maintenance because you kept adding clients, and you stopped measuring how much time was going to each client. So this is a critical step for your success in making a significant income in your first year. The third step is to reverse engineer our market. How much outreach do we have to do? How many people do we have to connect with? How many people do we have to meet? And I use the word meet literally and figuratively. You're going to meet people face to face, in person, out and about, but you're also going to meet with them online. You're going to connect with them on LinkedIn and things like that, where you're virtually meeting them. The big thing here is we're not trying to do outreach to 1 million people. Little hinges swing big doors. We only need a certain number of people to be able to meet the number of clients that we're after. So we don't want to try to do outreach to everyone. We don't want to work our tails off just trying to meet people and filling up a pipeline with people that are never going to become clients. What we want to do is network smart. We want to start building a sphere of influence that allows us to get our 10 to 12 clients. Let's say we have a 50% conversion rate across the board. So we got 12 clients and we have, say, our 50% conversion rate. That means we have to have 24 proposals go out the door. So where are those proposals coming from? Well, we need to have 48 sales conversations. We need to actually be pitching to 48 people to be able to get those 24 proposals and getting those 12 clients. To get those 48 sales conversations, we're going to need 96 qualified leads. A qualified lead has the budget. Qualified lead has the project. They have a problem that you can solve. A qualified lead is also going to make a decision soon. Now we're at the big crux of the issue of getting those qualified leads. A lot of you just don't generate enough awareness for yourself. You're going to need what I call light leads. These are people that might fit. You know, they've showed some interest. They've raised their hand by downloading a lead magnet. They've shown some type of engagement with you, but it doesn't mean they have a project. It doesn't mean they have a budget. We don't know any of that yet. This number could be anywhere from 384 to nearly 1,000. So let's call it 1,000 light leads. You're going to need 1,000 of them to potentially get enough clients out of this in the course of a year. But getting 1,000 light leads is pretty easy to do. You could probably achieve that in your very first month in business. But let's say we're going to just spread this out. That's possible. This is something that you can do manually. There's no fanciness that goes into generating those 1,000 light leads, those 1,000 contacts inside your market that might eventually become a client for you. Step 4 is reverse engineer your prospecting. These are the ways to actually meet people. I've got 7 ways that I prefer to do in prospecting. This is different from when I originally started 20 years ago because some of these things didn't even exist 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. The first step in prospecting is FFA, friends, family, and acquaintances. You go to them first and you can tell people, hey, I'm doing websites now. Do you know anyone who wants a website? And you might not make a lot of money, but you'll get your very first project and you can start building a case study. You may find that if you already have your expertise and you have some authority as being good at that expertise, you may find when you reach out to your friends and family and acquaintances that someone comes along and says, oh, that's awesome. We're about to do a big project, and you land a 6-figure account right out of the gate. One of the most amazing things you could possibly do is form strategic alliances with businesses that are similar to you but aren't competitive. I had 2 different clients. One was an accountant and the other one did payroll services. They both had hundreds of businesses as their customers. So I started doing free workshops for them and then giving them a piece of the action, a referral fee for any of those people who became a client for me. They were excited to be able to give free content, valuable free content to their customers and also to make a little bit of money on the back end. They were able to generate more revenue, they were able to make their customers happier, and I was able to get a lot of qualified, well-paying, great clients out of doing these strategic alliances. I'm going to make a separate video on meeting people, getting these 1,000 contacts, making your hit list, which I do have a video on how to do hit list marketing. It's down in the description below. And that brings us to the 5th and final step. Engineer a yes. We need to do follow-up. The yeses all occur in the follow-up. You might get lucky, contact somebody right out the gate, all cold and everything, and they say yes. It happens. It's the law of large numbers. You reach out to enough people, someone's just going to say yes to you cold. With follow-up, I want you to follow the rule of 9. You need to get your qualified prospects, not just any prospect, but qualified ones, to say no to you at least 9 times. This might take you a year, 2 years, 3 years to get 9 no's out of a prospect before you finally say, okay, I'm not going to bother this person anymore. And I bet half of you just kind of like puckered up your butts because you're like, oh crap, there's no way I could possibly get told no 9 times by somebody. That's being a pest. That's being, oh my gosh, I just don't even know what to do about that. A lot of you would be too afraid. Most of you hear no 1 time and you're done, you're out. But if you're hungry, you want to make several $100,000s a year in your very first year, you've got to get very comfortable hearing no. And hearing no from people who have already told you no. They've told you no, 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 and you keep contacting them. You don't want to be a pest. You do want to be of value to people. You do want to share something that you think is interesting to them. You do want to say, hey, happy birthday. You want to have some sort of contact with them over the course of years so they get an opportunity to talk to you and say no, and then maybe one day actually say yes. And that's the power of follow-up. And a lot of us just don't do enough follow-up. We don't create a system. We don't even use our CRMs, our customer relationship management software. We don't even use them properly. I falter at follow-up, and I'm pretty good at it. Many people just don't put enough effort into the follow-up. They hear that no one time and they're done, they're gone. And if you really want to generate a significant business, you want to make a high income, you've got to get people to say no multiple times before you give up on them if they're a qualified lead. Hopefully this long video on how to generate $100,000 to $300,000 your first year in your agency is helpful to you. Now let's follow up to that like button, comment, share, subscribe, do all the socials, and meet me right back here in the next video because I'm going to go in depth on the 7 steps on reverse engineering your prospecting. And that way you can generate all the leads you need to hit your target income.